I've written 570 pages of my life story and haven't even added photos yet. My family doesn't have any old documents or pictures. How can I possibly write our story? Should I include details about my spouse's addiction struggles, or will readers judge them harshly? These are real questions that family historians ask presenters at RootsText. While watching the writing sessions, I noticed something interesting. Some of the presenters seemed either a bit nervous or perhaps weren't fully prepared to give the kind of practical, actionable advice these writers need. Whether you're drowning in too much content or struggling with too little, I believe you deserve clear, practical solutions to move your family history project forward. So grab your notebook and let's dive into these writing challenges with some practical, actionable advice. If your family doesn't have photos or documents and doesn't talk about their past, is there a way to go about writing your history? This is such a common challenge. Here's what I recommend. Start with who you know. Write about your immediate family, your parents, grandparents, siblings, cousins, aunts, and uncles. If all else fails, write about yourself. Your future descendants will thank you. And it can be step, foster, adopted, or chosen family members. That's not the part that matters. The part that matters is talking to the people you know. Then pair those people with available records. For recent ancestors, look at yearbooks, social media, blogs, and county records that are online. For more distant U.S. ancestors, check out the 1940 and 1950 census records, newspapers, and city directories. One powerful technique is to learn about where someone lived and then add that context to your research and your eventual story. For example, if your mother fled from Laos when the communists took over and settled in Houston, Texas, you could research what life was typically like for Laotian immigrants in Houston during that time period. Finally, tell people what you're working on. You'd be surprised how many relatives might suddenly remember stories or have photos tucked away once they know you're interested in what they have. The next question. I'm writing my story and it's 570 pages long. I don't want to leave anything out, but I haven't even added photos yet. What do I do? My answer is simple. Break it up. 570 pages is a lot for anyone to read, and adding photos will make it even longer, but don't sacrifice including photos to make a story short. Consider breaking your story into themed sections or time periods. Let's say you're writing about one specific individual. These sections could be childhood, marriage, work life, hardships, faith-building experiences, and death if they passed on. You could publish annotated journals as one project, then create story collections with journal excerpts as another. This gives your readers different ways to connect with your history. You could also write about one person and not an entire family. And you can fill your shelf with multiple volumes and create a library of your ancestors. You might also consider hiring an editor. They can help you identify what's essential and what might be better placed in supplementary materials. What seems mundane to an editor might be gold in a different format. The next question was, where do you put photos in a story? This is a great question because it's indicating that this person wants to add visual storytelling elements to the writing. The best place for photos is embedded right in the text where they're relevant. Use a program that allows text wrap like Microsoft Word, LibreOffice, or Apple Pages. Simply insert your photo, find the steps and go through what you need to do to choose a wrap text around the photo, and if possible, add a caption. And then you're done. Some people put photos at the end of chapters, but that breaks the reading flow. The middle photo section, where in the past printers would have the story, but in the middle they would insert photos, particularly color photos when that came into existence. This is so outdated because when this was done, printing photos on photo quality paper was incredibly expensive. Otherwise, you had to have sketches or very simplified graphics with not a lot of detail. And so that's why they put it on photo paper and put those photo papers in the middle because it was easier to bind. Today, embedding photos throughout your text is affordable and much more engaging for your readers. One place I recommend publishing your books is lulu.com. They have been my go-to for 10 years, and they don't even sponsor me. That's how good they are. Here's the next question. What's the best way to include many sources in your book? Do you use footnotes to include details that don't fit smoothly, or cite sources to add credibility? Now, I have some videos about this on this channel, but let me give you the short version. The answer depends on your format. Where you put your citation depends on what style of book you're using, or if you're creating one of the creative approaches to producing family history. But here's the short version of my approach. For source citations in a narrative, use chapter endnotes. They provide credibility without visually cluttering your narrative. For brief clarifying statements like definitions, name changes, or pronunciations, use footnotes. For longer explanations or insights, use box text that stands out from the main narrative. And for detailed research, debates, analysis, or supplementary material, use appendices. Remember, your approach should match your target audience. Who is reading your book, and what would they expect to see in the form of citations? And if they don't like citations, don't bother them with too much, but don't not include them and sacrifice your credibility. Question 5. Can writing principles of including meaning in our feelings apply to writing ancestral stories? Should we include how we feel writing about our ancestor? Honestly, few people care about how you felt when you researched your ancestors. They want to read about their ancestors without another person getting involved in the story. I know that's a harsh truth. To be clear, I have read some great blogs about the author's research journey. Since I love family history, I enjoy this approach. But the regular Jane and Joe, they don't like this. So if you want to write about your ancestors with your feelings about the journey, then publish a research blog or journal. When writing about an ancestor to be shared with your family, be a third-person observer narrator who tells what's happening without adding commentary. It's tempting to make yourself the main character in your ancestor stories, especially when discussing your research journey. But please resist this urge. If the family connections are complicated, write a separate research report. Your family members won't care about your journey, but they will appreciate clear analysis that explains the relationships, especially if you're debunking a family myth or lore. If you want to write a memoir that involves an ancestral research discovery, that's fine as well. Just be clear that it's your story featuring your ancestors, not their story featuring you. If you agree or disagree with any of my answers so far, be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section. Question 6. Should you write about your whole life or just little stories? The answer depends on two things: how much time you have and what your goals are. I do believe it's best to first get a general overview of your life documented so no one has to research your life in the future. Yes, it's the dreaded chronological narrative, but he has a purpose for those who come after you. Think of the chronological narrative as a skeleton to organize your life stories into. After that, go where the memories take you. I've jumped all over my timeline from pageant days as a teen to documenting my first child, then back to when I was 5. Regarding the great tip that Rachel Trotter shared in her Roots text session, she says writing smaller stories help you finish more often. So here's my advice from my personal experience. I found that scrapbooks or photo journals or blog posts are a great way to jump into starting to write because you could rack up tons of stories and then gather them together in a book in the order that makes the most sense. Additionally, sometimes these stories are very visual and could emphasize the text less when you decide to write. So it's more a photo essay than a written text with pictures. Now, I enjoy scrapbooks. And what's great about scrapbooks, photojournals, and blogs, you can process photos and memories in any order. You'll likely cover your entire life without it feeling overwhelming. When you're ready to publish a book of your blog entries or digital scrapbook pages, you can arrange those stories in any order. Then, if you want to write any part of your whole life in more details, you can leverage these story starters that you've written and combine them together into longer segments of the life story. Does that make sense? Let me know what your thoughts are. Number 7, oh my gosh, this is a big one, and I think many of us face this challenge. How do you overcome procrastination? Some say to make a routine or habit or a scheduled time. I've even told you to do this before. And that does work for many people. But personally, I embrace the binge. I typically get a desire to work on a project and let everything else go until that project is finished. And I do mean everything, like laundry, dishes, spending time outside. You get the idea. Once I have finished the binge of writing, then I take a breather before finding the next project. Now, deadlines may help and do help occasionally. Sometimes they're real deadlines, like completing a book by the 50th anniversary celebration of a couple. Other times they're more like guidelines and actual rules, and I procrastinate. Be honest with yourself about whether you have a true deadline or just a dream date, and plan accordingly. If you're not a creature of daily habit, find ways to trigger your creative binges. Now, another effective approach is to take a course or join an accountability group. Sometimes when you put your money where your mouth is and have a commitment to a group, you'll get your writing done and you won't procrastinate. But even then, some people still procrastinate. My spouse was abused as a child and doesn't talk about it much. The trials made him who he is today. I want to write the story, but don't know how to approach it. The second question is like unto the first. How do we handle writing about a spouse who fought addictions their whole life without having people judge them as horrible? For difficult topics, paint the whole picture, the good, the challenging, and everything in the between. If writing about someone with addictions, explain what the addictions were and what they were trying to solve. Addictions were working in some way, or they wouldn't have been effective. Even if it's a negative effect, they solved for something. Remember that you can't control how somebody views your spouse or your ancestor. Those whose lives have been affected by similar issues may have their own perspective. Just tell the person's stories honestly and allow readers to form their own conclusions. I also recommend reading biographies of people who've gone through similar experiences because it can help you find appropriate approaches and language. For instance, if you want to talk about the loss of a husband when someone is a young mother, I recommend My Sergei by Yekaterina Gorieva about the loss of her Olympian husband, Sergei Grinkov. If you want to talk about somebody who has gone through a physical disability, overcame it, but then still had challenges afterwards, this biography of Heather Whitestone was incredibly touching. So be sure to check those over on Amazon. Family history writing isn't just about facts and dates. It's about preserving the essence of lives lived, challenges overcome, and thereby creating legacies. I hope these answers help you with your writing projects. If you have more questions, drop them in the comments below or head over to familyhistoryfanatics.com for more resources. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more family history writing tips. Until next time, keep writing those stories.